The story of the Mormon pioneers is a story of hope, faith, and devotion. In 1847, they trekked more than 1,300 miles. Being led by Church President Brigham Young, they arrived in the Great Basin on July 24th. For 2 decades, thousands more crossed the plains, hoping to worship God in peace and without persecution. As Brigham Young stated, they never would be driven ever again. They held fast to a dream that they called New Zion. They journeyed west by wagon, by handcart, and on foot. More than 3,000 men, women, and children paid for that dream with their lives. Wrote one woman of the suffering on the trail, "I only lived because I could not die." On August 8, 2013, members of the Draper Eastridge Stake journeyed through sacred parts of Wyoming, retracing the footsteps of the early Mormon pioneers. Although it may seem difficult today for us to fully understand the faith, suffering, and commitment to a common goal that these early pioneers embraced, still, this was our trek. The opportunities and challenges of our time often are as momentous, and we thank our ancestors for their example.
It would seem that our trek officially started on August 8, 2013, but it really started almost 2 years earlier when Brother and Sister Elgren were called to be our trek masters. It was then that the preparations, the firesides, the many assignments, the countless prayers, seeking guidance, and the hundreds, perhaps thousands of hours preparing for this trek began. But for this video, we start at 4 a.m. on August the 8th, as we all gathered for song and prayer, and some last-minute instruction.
Are returning, and angels are coming to visit the earth.
We soon boarded the buses, and we were off to Martin's Cove in Wyoming. We know that the pioneers sometimes had wagons or handcarts that broke down on the 1,300-mile journey to Zion. For us, it wasn't broken handcarts we first had to worry about. It was our chartered buses. Just before Rock Springs, Wyoming, one of the buses began leaking oil. So we had to stop and get everyone off the bus. We would learn later that it would not be the last time we would have to stop to make more repairs and changes. But everyone cooperated. Some had something to eat, while others loaded all the items from the broken bus onto the working buses.
Just part of the process, just like the pioneers. And so contingency plans kick in, and we'll be on our way in just a few minutes. Everyone's been great to lend a hand, and this won't affect us at all. It'll be great.
And we were off again. We heard that there would be a chance of rain during our trek, but on the high plains of Wyoming, there really is a chance of any kind of weather. With some rain now already falling, I wondered what we would be in for. Were we adequately prepared? With the falling rain, a very early rise, and a long bus ride, taking a nap seemed like a good option. Around 12:30 p.m., we arrived at Martin's Cove. Because of our numbers of about 400 people, we had to divide into 2 groups while on the trail. So while one group had lunch and spent time together and got to know their new families, another group began their trek. We had talked about this trek for over a year. But now it was different. It even felt different. We were now on sacred ground.
Okay, Mr. Sten Stark. How's trek going for you so far? We're about maybe a mile in, maybe. How was it?
I'm so tired.
Awesome. Well, we have about, I don't know, 20-something miles left on trek.
I came on trek because I wanted to experience a little bit of what the pioneers went through. They went through so much and that we can't even imagine it, and so to be able to be here and honoring them is just so amazing. And it's such a strong spirit everywhere you go. And I'm so happy I came.
Well, first of all, my parents made me. And second of all, I thought it would be a good experience. Sweating in places I didn't even know I could sweat. And every 3 seconds I need to take a drink of water.
Back here. Oh, you got a little one there. Okay, let's put moleskin on that one. Okay, moleskin quick.
So, took my dad's advice, and I've been running up and down the trail to get his good shots, and turns out you see that old couple way back there sitting over there? Well, they actually stopped me and I had to help them with some carts, so now I'm kind of far behind. So you can see way up there, and they're not gonna wait for me, no way. But I'm a Seville. You raised me well, Father. Signing out.
Let glory to them in the highest be given, henceforth and forever. Amen and amen.
Brother and Sister Perry shared some history and insight with us in this beautiful setting.
It really is a privilege for Jan and I to be here. It was an inspiration of a prophet who, as soon as he heard there were people in the high desert, he went to Father and said, what do we do? And that very next day, he said, brethren, this is what we're talking about, the rescue of those handcart pioneers. And I'll just tell you that some people marvel that so few people died. And the fundamental issue isn't how few died, it's that anybody survived. I want you to look at your young men leaders. I want you to look at your young women leaders. I want you to look at the people in your ward who are the Relief Society teachers. Who are your primary teachers? They are no less rescuers. Look at these wonderful bishops who are here. Look at their counselors and their wives. They too are rescuers. The rescuers were not a special breed, a special group. They were everyday people who felt the call of President Young, felt the call of a living prophet. And they left behind all their cares and their problems to come to the rescue of other people who needed them.
This truly is a holy place dedicated to those who gave so much because they wanted to come to Zion. This in the mid-1850s, Zion was in the Salt Lake Valley. It wasn't anywhere else, I don't think. That's where the sealing power was. That's where the priesthood keys were. And they would do anything to get there. And they did. And so they wanted to be with the saints. That was the holy place. Now, how does that apply to you and all of us today? Where is Zion today? Zion isn't just in the Salt Lake Valley, which is where we live. Zion is throughout the world. Zion is wherever there are the righteous and the pure in heart, where the church abides. And we are, each one of us, are called to help build the kingdom wherever we are.
I'm Heather Fisher, and I was representing Pioneer Alice Walsh.
We decided this might be our final resting place. We were convinced that we might all die in the Cove, that it would be all of our last place. But we were lucky. My 2 children and I were lucky, and we were rescued by the Hunt Wagon Company. Unfortunately, only a third of us were able to still walk, and I didn't know how I could carry my 2 children over 325 miles to the valley. And there wasn't enough room. It didn't seem that there would be enough room in the wagons. But I sat on the ground, and I was scared and I was afraid. But I was fortunate that they came across at the very end and found room for me. And I got to the valley, and I was able to live. My children lived. I was able to remarry. I had more children. And I know that it was all worth it to be in this gospel, to have this truth, and to be able to be sealed in the temple for eternity. Something that I could never have had in England, and it was worth the sacrifice.
While we walked through Martin's Cove, we were asked to walk in silence. Many said they could feel the spirit of the pioneers.
They suffered a great deal. They suffered a great deal here. They didn't suffer as much here in the Cove as they would have suffered if they had stayed at Fort Seminole. At least here they were out of some of the wind. They did have good provisions for firewood, so in that sense, they were better off here than down at the Cove.
On the trail, many say they feel they are being watched over by ancestors. Sister Elgrin and Brother Adair did not know they have common pioneers between them. In fact, they themselves never met until this trek experience. If there is any doubt, the veil sometimes is thin. Listen to what happened to them while on the trail.
When I went on Trek 2013, I took the name of my great-great-grandmother, Miriam Jane Billingsley. She was 17 years old when she crossed the plains. She crossed in the second group that left Nauvoo in 1846, following Brigham Young's group, who was the first group across. And shortly after she started on her journey across the plains, she had a dream. And she dreamed that a man on a white horse came riding up to her wagon. And the next day, she told that dream to her sister, who was also a teenager at the time, and they giggled about it like romantic teenage girls did. But sure enough, that very day, a man came up to their wagon riding a white horse, and she ended up developing a friendship with him as they sang around campfires at night after traveling long days on the journey, and pretty soon they fell in love and they were married before they got to the Great Salt Lake Valley. And so while I was on trek telling this story after we walked out of Martin's Cove, I could hear a man talking behind me telling his story.
So I overheard the dream part about them getting married, and I said, well, that's interesting, because my great-grandfather came across in 1847 and got in October into Salt Lake Valley, but he had also got married out on the trail, and that his party had caught up with another party, and then they continued on to the rest of the thing, and they had got married. And so I remember you said, well, was that George Washington
Adair?
Adair. And I said, yeah, that's who I had on my wrist. I had my wristband of George Washington Adair because I went on trek with him in mind. And you go, my great-great-great-grandmother was Miriam Billingsley.
And his great-grandfather, George Washington Adair, was the man who rode up to the wagon on the white horse.
And I'd never heard that story before.
And after that happened, I stopped and I thought, I wonder if our grandparents are watching us right now. And I had this feeling come over me that maybe they were. And then I looked at the youth and saw this long trail of youth, and the next day on their handcarts, pulling their handcarts. And again, I had that feeling, I think our ancestors are watching over us.
That night I was laying in my tent and I thought, what are the odds that two ancestors would both carry those names and meet and tell that story on track? I just thought that was really neat. And I remember the first time I went on trek up there on the actual trail, and how I felt the spirit so strong and how cool it was. It's just really cool.
And it's great. We're related.
Yeah, cousin.
Yeah.
About 5 miles into our trek, we arrived to the Sweetwater River. This is the place where many of the saints froze from exposure that they could not recover from. The theme of our trek was "Stand ye in holy places and be not moved." We were standing in a holy place, and we were rising in our faith and testimonies. Those who crossed this land and crossed the Sweetwater River dreamed of the day when there would be no more sorrow and no more pain. And they knew that peace was found in our Savior. See how many of our own young men would go back to help carry others across the water. Although it wasn't freezing, you can't help but believe that these young men would today will also stand ready to help those in need.
Ọlọ́run nìkan, Ọlọ́run tó dá wa, ẹ ṣé o Jésù, ẹ ṣé o Jésù.
There's a peace I've come to know, though my heart and flesh may fail. There's an anchor for my soul. I can say it is well. Jesus has overcome.
When this darkness breaks to light and the shadows disappear,
Master, my hero,
and my faith shall be my eyes.
Jesus has overcome, and the grave is overwhelmed. The victory is won. He is risen from the dead, and I will rise.
tito, lati parako.
I will rise when he calls my name. No more sorrow, no more pain. I will rise on eagle's wings before my God, fall on my knees and
After crossing the Sweetwater River, we walked about 1 more mile, where we loaded on our buses and drove a little over 1 hour to Sage Creek Campground, where we would spend our first night. The behind-the-scenes logistics to putting an event like this together can be daunting, but those called to all the tasks were amazing. Wow! We arrived to the food being prepared and plenty of water. We just had to set up our tents, enjoy the food, and have a good time making friends and strengthening friendships.
Let's have a family prayer. Is it fitting to have the oldest brother say the prayer?
I think so.
Yes. Well, that would be me, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Our dear, kind, and gracious Heavenly Father, we're grateful for this first day of trek. We're grateful for our Ma and Pa, the butlers, for their sweet spirit.
At 10 p.m. it was lights out. We would be getting up at 5 a.m. The clouds had parted and the stars in the sky were beautiful. It would have been nearly perfect if it wasn't for some of the loudest snoring I have ever experienced. And it was coming from all over the campground. You know who you are.
Oh, hi.
We were packed up and hitting the trail by 7 a.m. This day we would trek for 15 miles to Rock Creek Hollow.
So you can think of this journey as a walk down memory lane. See the rough times that lead you to the right times that make it worth all the pain. You hear yourself start to pray at the end of every day. And in your heart you feel a change. The wind still blows the strongest tree. Same wind will carry me when I set my fears aside. There's still a voice inside when the storms are gone.
I'm Cassidy Cook from the 2nd Ward.
And I'm Bailey Benson from the 2nd Ward.
And we just told the story of Sarah James
and Emma James.
And they came across the plains with the handcart companies, and their father died and their brother was badly frozen, but their mom had the determination and the faith to take the rest of the family across and lived to be over 90 years old as a widow in Utah.
Her faith in the gospel really pushed her through and helped her to keep going even after her family was frozen.
Here, It's not far in the distance where you are, where you'll be. You're standing taller on your knees. He's here in all your pleas. I guess this road is a two-way street. Now the wind still blows the strongest tree. The same wind will carry me when I set my fears aside. There's still a voice inside when the storms are gone. The sun will find me.
So now we come to another special place on the trail. After a couple miles, we arrived to Rocky Ridge. The Willie and Martin Handcart companies knew there was a rescue party in Rock Hollow. They believed if they couldn't get through this next stretch, they would perish. This is a place where many lost their lives, especially many of the fathers. They couldn't bear to see their family go without food. Often they would not eat, that their family would have just a little bit more food. They gave everything they had to help their families survive. At one point during their trek, many of the pioneer men were asked to join the United States military in the war with Mexico. Many saints volunteered and the Mormon Battalion was established. The enlistment period was for 1 year. On our trek, the men said goodbye to the women. The women gathered together, and Sister Dibble addressed them just before the women's poll.
It symbolizes a time in the early church history when the saints were coming to Zion. They'd all been asked by the prophet to come to Zion. And at the time, as they were coming to Zion, some of the men were asked to either leave their families and go serve missions, or some were asked to go be in the Mormon Battalion. And as we have learned from a lot of the stories, many of the men perished along the way because they gave their all. They gave their food, they gave everything they had to their families. And so the women had to get their families to Zion. And hundreds of them were just the women doing it by themselves. And so this poll is symbolic, and it teaches us that as women, we can do hard things. We can. We have been given gifts from our Father in heaven that enable us to do hard things. But I don't want you to think for a minute that we can do it without our men. The world wants you guys to think that the men don't matter. And I want you guys to know that without the priesthood, we are nothing, just like they are nothing without us. It is all a part of our Heavenly Father's plan. It started at the creation, man and woman. And so as we walk up and the men are standing to the side, just know that it is just as hard for them to watch you do this alone as it will be for us to do it alone. I hope that you girls will make the temple your Zion, that you will commit yourselves every single day to do whatever it takes to get to your Zion, to get to the house of the Lord, to be sealed to a worthy priesthood holder for time and for all eternity.
I know in his eyes I am a part of the bigger picture. There's so much more to me. He helps me see that I have so much to offer. I am his daughter.
And we can do it. Just they did it, we can do it.
They did it on 4 ounces of flour.
4 ounces of flour.
He's my king and my father. I am his daughter. The people on the TV screen, the leaders, rulers, and queens, I watch them shape the world, and though I'm just a girl, I still know for sure that I am a part of the bigger picture. There's so much more to me. He helps me see that I have so much to offer. I am his daughter. He loves me the way I am. He's my strength when I stand. He is my king and my father. I am his daughter. And when I'm feeling small, I'm wondering if I'll ever find courage to stand tall. Through his love I remember there's so much more to me. He helps me see that I have so much to offer. I am his daughter. He loves me the way I am. He's my strength when I stand. He is my king and my father. I am his daughter.
We are so thankful for you sisters. As men, we appreciate you so much. I know that Sister Dibble spoke with you down there. I wish I could have been there. She is she's an amazing woman to me. She completes me, and I am so grateful to my Heavenly Father for her. None of you should settle for anything less. You have examples in your life, men and women, and I hope that you'll look to your ma and pa for this experience, these 3 days. Look to them and witness how they love each other, how they support one another, how they are equally yoked. The young men need you to not only live your life the way that you do, and you do it so majestically, but to help them. Demand that they are their best self when they're around you. We love you as your leaders. We bear witness that it is by being equally yoked that this life experience is sweet.
and miraculous and very difficult and marvelous all at the same time.
As the hours and the miles passed, we encountered some medical situations where a few of us needed to come off the trail or be pulled in a handcart. When Jake Turner, who recently joined the church, needed to come off the trail, he had this to say about his desire to go on.
Hey Jake, can you tell us a little bit what you're feeling right now?
I'm feeling like the Spirit has answered a lot of my prayers because He's decided that I must stay off the trail. My family has to go on without me, and I know they'll be strong. I will pray for them as they go because they will need it. I didn't have the physical strength to keep going, and yet I feel like I can spiritually stay with them.
We love you, man.
Love you too, Jeff.
Jake was not alone. The first day of our trek, Hiram Lobo Lamb was doing fine. In fact, he had this to say.
Pushing a handcart, I feel pretty good.
How things can change. The next day, Hiram came down with the flu. After receiving a priesthood blessing, he was taken to the hospital in Lander, Wyoming. Thankfully, he was fine. This just shows how the pioneers overcame incredible obstacles. We had near perfect weather while on the trail, always looking like it was going to rain, and almost perfect temperatures. We had food, we had water, a great medical staff was on hand, yet we still had challenges.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
Lower D's. There's the toes. Toes. Get it. Get it. Oh! Oh!
You ever been on Pioneer Trek before?
Yeah. Hey.
After visiting several of the monuments along the way, stopping to hear pioneer stories, and sharing testimonies, you could start to feel the anticipation of arriving to Rock Creek Hollow. I wonder if there was a similar feeling of excitement when the pioneers knew they were nearing the Salt Lake Valley.
All right, Jonathan, tell me about your flag here.
So we are the Stark family, and so there's a picture of Iron Man pulling a hand cart. And so we just wrote, "We are strong, Stark strong," and we signed it.
So, how did you guys come up with this flag theme?
I have no clue. She just drew it.
But you like it?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys want this? Is that okay? Does it feel good? Yeah. Doesn't that feel great? Oh. Does that feel good? Yeah. See, we're on the home stretch. Everybody's happy.
Go! Wow, now this is live. This is live.
I know.
You guys having fun?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Why?
Because it's fun. Because
First trek, right?
yeah, it's
What do
fun
you like
people.
about it so far?
Fun people and walking. Not really. That was a lie. I don't like walking.
first I thought it was gonna be fun, and then like I started to get scared. It's like I don't think I'm gonna make it. Now I'm here, and it's pretty amazing. Time to meet new people and strengthen your spiritual side.
Edelweiss, every morning you greet me, small and white, clean and bright. You look happy to meet me.
Now, with only 1 mile to go, there was another story to be told of the hardships endured by the Willie and Martin pioneers.
On October 2nd, we reached Laramie, Wyoming. We had a meeting and Captain Willie told us at our present rate of travel and consumption of flour, we would not have enough to reach our destination. We reduced our rations from 16 ounces to 12 ounces and tried our hardest to move faster. At Independence Rock, we received a letter from Elder Richards saying that we might expect supplies to meet us from the Salt Lake Valley by the time we got to South Pass. As we evaluated what we had, we realized we would be out before we reached that point, so we had to reduce even further. I have seen some pull their carts in the morning, give out during the day, and die before the next morning. These people died with the calm faith and fortitude of martyrs. Their greatest regret seemed to be leaving their families behind them and their bodies on the plains or mountains instead of being laid in the consecrated ground of Zion.
We get so much and they had so little, and they had so much more to do. Like they were going through snow and we're complaining that our feet hurt just walking on gravel.
Like here, most of the people are pretty young, but there was also elderly during that trek, and if it was hard for the people who were in their youth, imagine the elderly. I don't think they were able to do that with ease at all.
I think in a woman's pool, though, they would be pulling. One woman could be pulling their whole children, or maybe even their sick husband if they were still alive. I mean, you guys had 6 women helping you up, and that was hard.
Yeah. Trekking through those frozen rivers with no shoes on and then barely little. You had nothing to change into. That was your only pair of clothes.
So here we are. We completed our journey of 21 miles. Perhaps small compared to what the early saints did, but still a great accomplishment. And in this shot of Bishop Bossler finishing, I am not sure if he's weary from the trek or for being bishop for the last 6 years and counting. Whether living in 1856 or living today, the challenges are all very real. We all face struggles, but we, like them, know that our faith must lie in the Savior. The rains held off just long enough for us to arrive at Rock Creek, and then the storm rolled in.
It just gave me a feeling what the pioneers actually went through. Kind of made me actually appreciate it more. Not just the thought, but I felt like I was living it when I was walking it, and it was really, really special. So I was grateful to be able to be here.
After an hour or so, the clouds began to part, and we were blessed with this rainbow. It made me think of this painting depicting when the early pioneers first laid eyes on the Salt Lake Valley. It was a beautiful sight. Some of the music on this video comes from the CD titled Bring Them In. It celebrates the spirit of Trek. Here to sing Go Bring Them In is singer-songwriter Nancy Hansen, who co-wrote the song. When we arose from our second night, it was another beautiful sunrise. We walked over to the monument that remembered the lives lost and to those who came to rescue these pioneers in this sacred place. We had an early morning fireside where Patriarch Spence Lloyd spoke with us.
This is quite a sight. It's a very tender morning. I, like Brother Bosty, hope that you have felt the spirit of this place.
We then returned to the campground where we gathered in our own wards and shared our experiences. The youth also received letters from their parents. The words written to the sons and daughters must have been touching by seeing their reactions. And to you parents who wrote the letters and gave all kinds of support, thank you for helping your kids and the youth have this great experience. You made this trek possible. How do you pack the years of preparation and our trek experience into this video? Our lives were changed during this time. Many testimonies strengthened, and others gained a testimony. 6 weeks into his journey to the west, William Clayton received news from his wife Dianthus, who was still back in Nauvoo, that she had delivered a healthy baby boy. A poet-musician at heart, the young father penned words of relief to a familiar English tune that became an anthem for the trail. All Is Well later became Come, Come Ye Saints. The song reflects the hope of these pioneers. The tune still brings hope to us today. One pioneer wrote,
"After we were settled for the night and a small portion of food eaten, we would dance and sing, have meeting and prayer before going to bed. Come, Come Ye Saints, sung wholeheartedly by the entire company, would give us fresh courage to face the next day's hardships." James T. Sutton.
And so we finished our trek, and it was time to go home, forever changed.
They cut desire into short lengths and fed it into the hungry fires of courage. Long after, when the flames had died, molten gold gleamed in the ashes. They gathered it into bruised palms and handed it to their children and their children's children forever. With such a rich and inspiring past, we have much to be grateful for. Will we, can we carry on the legacy of faith and hope? Can we live up to the example of our pioneer ancestors? Indeed, we can, and we will.
November 1856, just west of Devil's Gate, a place they now call Martin's Cove, sacred ground of faith. Some hours ago we somehow crossed Sweetwater sheets of ice. At times it took away your breath, at times it took your life.
The sky is growing dark again,
there's little food to eat. A chilling wind cuts to the bone. I cannot feel my feet. I know that Zion lay just ahead. As I rest and close my eyes, well, I wake to see the morn made paradise.
Go bring them in from the plains. Go bring them in from the storm. Like a fire, the spirit's burning. Bring them in and keep them warm. Go bring them in from the plains. Go bring them in from the cold. Wrap your loving arms around them. Bring His peace to their souls. Now tonight I dream of Kirtland, Zion's camp's holy test. I dream of independence, liberty, and far west. Tonight I dream of Nauvoo, Brother Joseph's iron will. Tonight I dream of Carthage, and how we miss him still.
And tonight I dream of Bethlehem, Nazareth, and Galilee. Tonight I dream of miracles from our Master and our King. Somewhere it starts as whispers, then turns to shouts so clear. Wake up, it's not a dream. The Valley Boys are here.
Go bring them in from the plains. Go bring them in from the storm. Like a fire, the spirit's burning. Bring them in and keep them warm. Go bring them in from the plains. Go bring them in from the cold. Wrap your loving arms around them. Bring His peace to their souls. Now it's me who walks these steps just west of Devil's Gate, a place we now call Martin's Cove, the sacred ground of faith. In silence and in reverence, Sweetwater we now cross, and hear the echo of their prayers, their tears, and their love.
And I still needs a light that shines, this truth we need to share. To honor those who came this way, we'll lift them and we'll care. And on our backs and in our hearts, we'll carry and proclaim, and heed a prophet's call once more. Go bring them from the plains.
Go bring them in from the plains. Go bring them in from the storm. Like a fire, the spirit's burning. Bring them in and keep them warm. Go bring them in from the plains. Go bring them in from the cold. Wrap your loving arms around them. Bring His peace.
Go
and bring them in from the plains. Go bring them in from the storm.